In a world that never stops moving, where every second is flooded with noise, deadlines, distractions, and the pressure to be anywhere but here, there is a pause, a breath, a quiet return to what's real. Not what was, not what could be, but what is. Beneath the mental noise, underneath the racing thoughts and constant craving, there is a stillness that never leaves. It's not something far away or hidden. It's here, in this moment, always has been, but most don't see it. Most live entangled in past regrets or future anxieties, moving like shadows through their own lives. The past is already written. The future hasn't arrived, but there's something alive now, steady, unchanging, always waiting to be noticed. This is where real life begins, not in memory, not in anticipation, but here, in the quiet depth of now. Chapter 1: You Are Not Your Mind. For most of human history, people have lived as if their thoughts were who they truly are. They cling to the constant stream of inner dialogue, believing it defines them, but this is a deep misunderstanding. The mind is a tool, brilliant, creative, destructive, and powerful, but it is not the essence of who we are. A deeper presence exists beneath the noise. I began to see this in myself when suffering broke me open, not with answers, but with silence. The greatest mistake is identifying with the voice in the head. That voice, your judgments, your fears, your regrets, your plans, runs incessantly, often out of control, often against your own well-being. It criticizes you, compares you to others, dreams about the future, or ruminates about the past. And it never stops unless you choose to step outside of it. Most people are trapped inside this voice. They never learn to observe it. They believe it is them. But the moment you notice it, the moment you become the silent observer of that voice, something profound happens. You step back into awareness. In that instant, you are no longer the voice. You are the presence that hears it. This moment of recognition, of seeing yourself as the observer of thought, marks the beginning of awakening. There's a sudden sense of inner stillness. The thoughts might continue, but now there's space around them. That space is you. It's consciousness. It's the now. And the mind, powerful as it is no longer your master. It becomes your servant. The mind thrives on time. It survives by dragging your attention out of the present and into past and future. The past becomes your identity, and the future your salvation or your doom. But in truth, neither past nor future exists outside your thoughts. Only this moment, right now, is ever real. The mind hates the now. It can't control it. It can't manipulate it. That's why it always flees into memory or fantasy. It's terrified of stillness. When I first recognized this, I had reached a point of unbearable suffering. My mind had become my enemy. It bombarded me with self-loathing, worry, and despair until one night, in utter desperation, I said aloud, "I can't live with myself anymore." That sentence was the doorway. Who is the I who can't live with the myself? Who is this second self? That question exploded the illusion. In that moment, I saw clearly. There is the mind-made self, full of fear and craving, and then there's the awareness that witnesses it all. That awareness is who I truly am. And with that realization, the mind loosened its grip. When you become conscious of the voice in your head, when you observe it without judgment, you take the first step into true freedom. But this step can be uncomfortable. The mind doesn't give up its control easily. It might mock your silence. It might flood you with thoughts in retaliation. But stay. Stay with the watching. With every moment you remain as the observer, you reclaim more of your power. In that watching, you'll begin to sense a subtle but powerful shift. The gap between your thoughts will widen. The stillness will expand. You'll no longer be lost in the mind's drama. You'll see it for what it is, a stream of conditioned patterns shaped by your past, by society, by pain. And you are not those patterns. You never were. Thought is only a small aspect of consciousness. It's like a ripple on the surface of a vast ocean. Most people live only in the ripple, unaware of the ocean's depth. But if you sit still, truly still, and listen not to your thoughts but to the silence beneath them, something astonishing will emerge. You'll begin to feel the life inside your body, the aliveness in your hands, your chest, your breath. That aliveness is pure being. It has no story. It needs no identity. It is untouched by thought. It simply is. This is not philosophy. This is not belief. This is direct experience, always available in the now. When you rest in being, when you no longer chase every thought, a peace arises. That peace isn't fragile. It doesn't depend on what happens outside you. It's steady like a mountain. And in that peace, your life begins to change. Not because you fixed every problem or solved every mystery, but because you're no longer possessed by the noise of the mind. To disidentify from the mind is to reclaim your power. It's to stop letting every thought dictate your emotions, your choices, your self-worth. You start to see thoughts as clouds passing across the sky of awareness. Some are dark, some are light, but none are permanent. You don't need to cling to them. You don't need to follow them. You can simply let them come and go. But the ego, this mind-made identity, will resist. It feeds on attention. It wants to be important. It loves drama. It wants to argue, to be right, to be admired or pitied. It fears being nothing. But when you step outside the ego, when you stop feeding it with identification, it begins to dissolve. You begin to feel the simplicity of being. And in that simplicity, there's immense joy. The ego is always seeking. It wants more money, more recognition, more love, more control. It tells you, once I get that, then I'll be happy. But even when you get what it wants, the satisfaction is fleeting. The seeking starts again. That's because the ego can never be truly fulfilled. It's a phantom. It can't rest in the now. Only your true self, the presence beneath thought, can rest. And that rest is freedom. Look closely and you'll see every thought says either something about the past or something about the future. I was hurt. I will succeed. They betrayed me. I might fail. But ask yourself, where are these things right now? Are they real, or are they memories and projections in the mind? The only thing that ever actually happens now. The now is all there is. So the invitation is simple, yet radical. Become present. Just now. Feel your breath. Notice the space around you. Sense the energy in your hands. Don't analyze. Just be. The mind will try to pull you away, to label, to judge. That's its habit, but you are not your habits. You are the awareness watching them. This presence is not passive. It's deeply alive. It's not about withdrawing from life. It's about entering life fully, without the filters of fear and judgment. When you're truly present, you see things as they are. You hear with more depth. You respond rather than react. You move with clarity, not compulsion. Some will ask, but how can I live without thinking? The truth is, you don't need to kill the mind. You only need to stop being possessed by it. Use it when needed. Set it down when it's not, like a skilled craftsman with a tool. Thinking has its place in solving problems, in communicating, in creating. But when thinking becomes compulsive, it becomes a cage. And most people live in that cage, unaware that the door has always been open. Freedom begins the moment you recognize that you are not your mind. You are not your thoughts. You are the space in which thoughts appear and disappear. You are the silent presence beneath every experience. That presence is always here. It's what's reading these words. It's what's watching the mind question or agree or resist them. It has no shape, no color, no name, and yet it is more real than anything the mind can grasp. So step back, watch, listen. Let the thoughts come, but don't follow. Let the emotions rise, but don't drown. Stay with the stillness, and you'll see you were never the noise. You were always the silence behind it. Chapter 2, Consciousness, the Way Out of Pain. Pain is not just a physical sensation. It's an energy field. It lives in the body, but feeds on the mind. It multiplies when attention clings to thoughts of suffering, regret, resentment, guilt, anger, blame. Most of the pain humans carry is unnecessary. It's self-created, not by events, but by the resistance to them. Pain is born the moment we say, this should not be happening. And that pain doesn't go away by thinking about it. It dissolves only when we become present enough to stop feeding it. Consciousness is not something you acquire. It's what you are underneath all your thoughts and identifications. Yet most people live unconscious of their inner reality. They react to every situation through the filter of the past. They label, compare, judge, defend, and complain without realizing they're not fully here. And so they live in pain, because unconscious living always creates conflict. Conflict between what is and what the mind wants. Conflict between memory and presence. There's a fundamental misunderstanding that suffering is caused by external situations. But the root of most suffering is internal, the refusal to accept what is. This does not mean you have to enjoy every situation or tolerate abuse. It means you meet each moment fully, without resistance. You can act to change what is harmful, but from a place of clarity, not from a reactive mind. When you resist the present, your energy splits. Part of you is engaged in the moment, and the other part is mentally fighting it. That inner war creates tension. Emotional pain arises. If this becomes habitual, and it often does, it forms a pain body. The pain body is a semi-autonomous energy that lives inside you, built from accumulated emotional pain from your past. It wakes up when it finds something to feed on, an argument, a painful memory, a story of victimhood. And once active, it tries to pull you into its energy field. It thrives on drama, conflict, and emotional negativity. To see the pain body clearly, you must become aware of its presence as it arises. You might feel a sudden heaviness, irritation, anxiety, or anger. If you can notice these feelings without identifying with them, you create space. That space, pure awareness, disarms the pain body. It cannot survive without your unconscious identification. Just like a fire without fuel, it starts to fade when you stop feeding it attention wrapped in thought. The pain body loves when you think about your pain. It wants you to remember every insult, replay every trauma, imagine future suffering. But these thoughts are not you. They're the mind's attempts to pull you back into suffering. Consciousness is your way out. The moment you shift attention from thought to awareness, you reclaim your power. You step into the now. In that moment, pain becomes a sensation you witness, not a reality that owns you. True consciousness is not thought. It's the silent presence that sees thought. The more you rest in this, the more you can feel emotions without being overwhelmed by them. You can allow sadness to pass through like a rain cloud. You can feel fear without letting it steer your choices. You can acknowledge anger without turning it into a weapon. Emotions are waves. Presence is the ocean beneath. But the ego resists this shift. The ego, which is the false self built from memory and identification, thrives on problems. Without drama, it feels invisible. It believes, if I suffer, I must be real. And so it clings to suffering like a badge of existence. It turns pain into identity, the one who was wronged, the one who failed, the one who deserves more. These roles give the ego something to hold on to, but they are masks. They are not who you are. To awaken is to see these identities as illusions, to drop them not by force, but by seeing through them. When you watch the ego without judgment, its hold weakens. You stop feeding the story. You stop reinforcing the pain. And in that space, healing begins. Not by fixing the past, but by releasing the grip it has on your perception. The present moment has a quality of neutrality. It simply is. It has no label, no agenda, and it offers you freedom the moment you surrender to it. Surrender is not giving up, it's giving in to reality as it is, without resistance. In that surrender, pain cannot find a foothold. The ego has nothing to argue with, and in that emptiness, peace arises. A peace so deep it feels like home. This peace doesn't mean life becomes free of problems. It means problems lose their power to define you. You stop being the person with a story and become the space in which stories rise and fall. You can respond to life instead of reacting. You can hold joy and pain with the same openness, knowing that neither lasts forever. Everything is fleeting. Thoughts, emotions, conditions. but the awareness that sees them is eternal. That is who you are. Some people ask, but how do I stay conscious in daily life? The world is chaotic. And it's true, the modern world is noisy, demanding, often hostile to presence. But consciousness isn't about escaping the world, it's about bringing stillness into it. Every task, every interaction is an opportunity to be aware. When you walk, feel each step. When you listen, listen with your whole being, not just your mind. When you breathe, be fully with your breath. These small anchors pull you back into the now. They dissolve the mind's grip and reconnect you with presence. Pain cannot survive in full presence. Try it. The next time you feel discomfort, mental or emotional, don't resist it, don't analyze it, don't run from it. Just bring your full attention to it. Where is it in your body? What does it feel like exactly? Can you observe it without labeling it? The very act of observation shifts something fundamental. You move from being inside the pain to being the witness of it. And that witness is untouched. The mind may rebel. It may insist, this is not enough. I need to do something. But presence is not passivity. It's a deeper kind of doing, a doing that arises from being. Action that flows from presence is far more powerful than action driven by fear or ego. It's cleaner, more precise, more aligned. Over time, as your connection to presence deepens, the pain body weakens. It might still arise, especially in triggering situations, but it won't take over. You'll see it coming. You'll feel its energy stirring. And instead of reacting blindly, you'll breathe, observe, allow. You might even welcome it. Not because you enjoy pain, but because you understand this is another chance to awaken. Relationships are one of the strongest mirrors for unconscious pain. People often trigger each other's pain bodies without meaning to. A look, a word, a silence, and suddenly old wounds explode. But if even one person in a relationship remains conscious, the dynamic changes. Instead of escalating the conflict, you can become a space of non-reaction. That space allows healing. It disrupts the pattern. It invites the other into awareness without a single word. This is how transformation happens, not through force, but through presence. Pain loses its power when it's met with light, and the light is always here within you, waiting to be seen. There is a silent revolution happening in those who begin to live this way. They become less reactive, more compassionate, less addicted to thought, more anchored in now. They find joy not in possessions or accomplishments, but in the simple aliveness of being. They see that every moment is sacred, not because it's perfect, but because it is. And in that seeing, pain dissolves. You don't need to wait for some future awakening. You don't need to perfect yourself first. You are already the awareness you seek. Beneath the layers of identity and pain, you are already whole. You are the space in which pain arises, not the pain itself. You are the light behind the clouds, not the storm. So when pain appears, don't run, don't fight, don't drown. Just become still, feel it, watch it, stay rooted in now. And you'll discover something astonishing. The way out of pain is not through escape or avoidance. The way out is through presence, through awareness, through consciousness. And once you've passed through, you won't just be free from pain. You'll be transformed by it. You'll carry within you a stillness that no circumstance can shake. You'll be able to look at the world not with fear, not with need, but with open eyes and a quiet heart. That is the power of now. That is the way out of pain, and it is already yours. Chapter 3, Moving Deeply into the Now. There is a vast difference between knowing about the present moment and actually living in it. Most people understand the concept of the now, yet they continue to live as prisoners of time, haunted by the past, obsessed with the future. They carry old identities like armor, planning endlessly for events that never arrive. Their minds keep running, always reaching, always escaping. But there comes a moment, sometimes through crisis, sometimes through silence, when the truth pierces through. All you ever have is this moment. Everything else is a thought. The entryway to the now is not found in the mind because the mind cannot grasp it. The mind is built on time. It thrives on past and future. It tells you soon you'll arrive. Just fix this. Just get there. Then you'll be at peace. But peace never comes that way. You might fix one thing, but another problem appears. You might reach a goal, but the satisfaction fades. The mind is always one step ahead, dangling hope in front of you like a carrot on a stick. And so you chase, never arriving. But presence is always here. It waits behind the veil of thought. And you can access it not by understanding it, but by being it. It begins with awareness. Feel your breath. Sense the inner aliveness in your hands. Notice the space in the room, not just the objects. This attention pulls you out of the stream of thinking and into direct experience. The shift is subtle but radical. You're no longer lost in thought. You're awake to reality. When you're truly present, even simple things become luminous. A sip of water, a breeze on your skin, the act of walking, all come alive. You're no longer using life as a means to an end. You're no longer rushing through it to get somewhere else. You're here, fully. And in that state, anxiety falls away. You don't need to fix everything, because in this moment, nothing is broken. Time still exists, of course. The clock still ticks. Appointments still happen, but your relationship with time changes. You stop being ruled by it. You use it when needed, but you no longer live in it. The mind still thinks, but you're no longer identified with the thinking. You see thoughts come and go like clouds in the sky. You feel emotions rise and fall like waves, but you remain the sky. You remain the ocean, unmoved. One of the obstacles to presence is the mind's addiction to becoming. It always wants to be more successful, more enlightened, more loved, more powerful. It sees life as a means to an imagined future self. But this need to become blocks you from realizing that you already are. You don't need to become anything. You only need to stop running from yourself. When you stop seeking, you find what was always here. Being. Being is not passive. It's not laziness or stagnation. It's the aliveness beneath every form. It's what allows action to flow from clarity rather than compulsion. When you act from presence, you don't create karma. Your actions are clean, free from ego, aligned with truth. You speak only what needs to be said. You move only when movement is needed. There's no force, no resistance, just harmony. Many ask, but how do I remain present when life is so demanding? The answer lies in attention, not partial attention, not distracted multitasking, but full attention. When you give full attention to what's in front of you, whether it's washing dishes, speaking to someone, walking, or working, you enter the now, you enter life. And in that space, even routine actions become sacred. Presence doesn't mean you never plan. It doesn't mean you don't care about the future. It means you stop living for the future. You plan when needed, but you don't live there. You act from the now. You use the mind as a tool, but it no longer uses you. You recognize that every thought about the future is still just a thought, and every future moment when it comes will come only as the now. Pain often arises when people confuse their life situation with their life. Your life situation includes your job, your relationships, your finances, your goals. Your life, however, is the moment you are living now. Most are so entangled in their situation that they lose touch with life itself. They become obsessed with fixing the external, hoping it will bring internal peace. But peace doesn't come from achievement. It comes from presence. This does not mean you neglect your situation. It means you approach it differently. From presence, you deal with challenges effectively without being consumed by them. You bring attention and clarity into every decision. You don't panic or spiral because you're not lost in future scenarios. You stay rooted, you act. And even if things don't go your way, you remain at peace because your peace is no longer conditional. The ego hates the now. The ego cannot survive it. In the now, there is no problem, no identity, no story to maintain. And so the ego constantly tries to escape presence. It distracts you with complaints, projections, judgments, regrets. It pulls you into drama. But once you see the ego for what it is, a mental structure built on fear, you can step outside of it. You don't have to fight it. Just watch it. The watching is enough. Every moment offers you a choice, presence or identification. Will you merge with thought, or will you remain as the awareness behind thought? Will you react, or will you observe and respond? Each choice determines the quality of your life, not just your outer life, but your inner state. The more you choose presence, the more peace becomes your default, and the less power the mind has over you. There are practices to deepen presence. Meditation, conscious breathing, mindfulness. These are helpful, but don't turn them into rituals. Don't use them to seek a future state. Use them to enter this moment, right here. When you sit quietly, don't try to stop thinking. Just become aware. Be the space in which thought happens. When you breathe consciously, feel each inhale, each exhale. When you walk, walk with your whole being. These simple acts can anchor you more deeply than any philosophy. Children live in the now. Watch them. They don't worry about tomorrow. They don't dwell on yesterday. They play, they cry, they laugh, they move on. They feel without analyzing. They live without comparing. And in that innocence is wisdom. As adults, we've layered thought over our experience. We've turned life into a problem to solve. But the moment you let go of that struggle, the moment you allow yourself to be fully here, joy returns. Not the joy of achievement, but the joy of being alive. Nature too invites presence. A tree doesn't strive, it grows in stillness. A bird doesn't question its purpose, it flies. The sky doesn't complain, it holds everything. When you walk in nature without labeling, you return to harmony. You feel your body as part of the earth. You remember what the mind made you forget, that you already belong, that you don't need to prove yourself, that being is enough. To move deeply into the now is to return to your natural state. Not a special state reserved for monks or sages, but your original state before thought took over. It's a remembering, not an achievement. It's simple yet so easily forgotten. But once remembered, it changes everything. Your relationships transform. You stop using people to complete you or validate you. You meet them in presence. You listen without needing to reply. You love without needing to possess. You become a space for others to awaken, not through teaching, but through being. Your work changes. You stop chasing success as a means to prove worth. You bring presence into every task. You act with integrity. And paradoxically, real success comes not from struggle, but from alignment. Even your pain transforms. When you're present with it, pain no longer becomes suffering. It becomes sensation, energy, something that moves through. You no longer add stories, interpretations, or resistance. You just feel. You allow. And in that allowing, healing begins. So how do you move deeply into the now? You stop resisting what is. You let go of the idea that life should be different. You let go of the future as salvation. You stop feeding the mind's illusions. You bring attention to what is directly in front of you. You feel your body from the inside. You breathe. You watch. You stay. And when the mind pulls you away, as it will, you don't get frustrated. You simply return, again and again, with patience, with love, until presence becomes your home, not just a fleeting visitor. There is nowhere else to go. There is nothing more to become. Everything you seek is already here, not in thought, not in time, but in presence. And that presence is you. Chapter 4, Mind Strategies for Avoiding the Now. The human mind is cunning. It has spent a lifetime building its reality through ideas, beliefs, labels, comparisons, fears, and desires. But the greatest illusion it perpetuates is that the now is never enough. It insists that fulfillment lies somewhere else, someone else. So rather than resting in presence, the mind creates constant movement, endless strategies, and subtle tactics to pull attention away from what is. This avoidance takes many forms. Sometimes it's obvious: distraction, overthinking, addiction to entertainment or noise. Other times it's quiet and disguised as ambition, regret, or spiritual seeking. But the pattern is always the same. The mind either pushes toward the future or drags you back into the past. Why? Because the now threatens its control. In the now, there is nothing for the mind to manipulate. There is no identity to maintain, no problem to solve. There is only being. One of the most common strategies is time addiction. The mind says, later will be better. I'll be happy when I reach this goal, solve this problem, meet this person, heal this wound. It constantly defers life to some imagined point ahead. It promises that joy, peace, or satisfaction will come, just not now. So you postpone your life. You live in anticipation. And that anticipation creates anxiety because deep down you know that future is never guaranteed. Worse, it never actually arrives. When it does, it's just another now, which you've been trained to avoid. Equally dangerous is the strategy of past fixation. The mind replays old stories, memories, traumas, and glories. Look what happened to me, it says. Look what they did. Look what I lost. These memories aren't just remembered, they're relived. The body tenses, the heart races, the emotions return as if the event is happening again. The past, though long gone, becomes a prison. And people carry this prison into every moment, unaware that they hold the key to walk out. Presence. Another trick of the mind is labeling. It reduces everything it sees into categories: good, bad, right, wrong, beautiful, ugly, frenemy. These labels are not real. They are thoughts about reality, not reality itself. But once labeled, the moment becomes filtered. You don't meet life directly. You meet your mind's opinion about life. And so you miss the richness, the depth, the wonder of what is actually unfolding. You replace being with thinking. Then there's the strategy of psychological time. Unlike practical clock time, needed for appointments or tasks, psychological time is the mental obsession with what has been or what will be. It's not functional, it's emotional. It creates guilt and anxiety, regret and fear. It feeds the ego. The ego needs past to feel like it has a story, a history. It needs future to imagine itself as better, stronger, more complete. But all of it is fiction. All of it is thought. The ego also creates suffering through resistance. It says, this shouldn't be happening. It fights the present. It complains, judges, blames. It looks for problems even when none exist. It thrives on negativity. It believes that if it resists hard enough, life will bend to its will. But resistance only deepens pain. The more you resist the now, the more trapped you feel. The more you accept the now, the more power you gain. Even spiritual seeking can become an avoidance strategy. The mind says, I'll be enlightened someday, once I read enough, meditate enough, purify myself enough. It creates a future identity of spiritual attainment. But true presence doesn't require preparation. It doesn't wait for permission. It doesn't live in a book or a teacher. It lives here, right now. The irony is that spiritual seeking often becomes a sophisticated way to avoid presence. The seeker becomes just another identity the ego hides behind. Another tactic is mental commentary. The voice in the head never stops talking. It narrates your life, judges others, plans conversations, revisits arguments. It comments on the weather, your clothes, your self-worth. This commentary becomes so constant that people mistake it for reality, but it's just noise. When you pause and listen, really listen, you'll begin to hear its emptiness, its repetition, its fear. And in that listening, something shifts. You no longer believe every thought. You become the witness. And the witness is free. The mind also clings to problems. It creates problems even when none exist. Why? Because the ego feels more real when it's struggling. It needs something to fix, something to overcome. Without a problem, it feels like it has no purpose. But most problems aren't real. They are imagined situations projected into the future, or they are replays of events that no longer exist. Real problems are dealt with as they arise. Everything else is mental noise. To see through these strategies, you must first become deeply aware of them, not with judgment, not with force, but with curiosity. Watch how your mind tries to pull you away from this moment. Watch how it tells stories, how it resists, how it clings to identity. Don't argue with it, just observe. The very act of watching brings you back into presence, and in presence, the strategies fall apart. You can also ground yourself in the now through your senses. Feel the weight of your body. Listen to the sounds around you. Notice colors, textures, smells. Taste your food slowly. Breathe consciously. These simple acts return attention to the moment. They remind you that life is not happening in your head, it's happening here. Another way the mind avoids the now is by chasing intensity. It seeks stimulation through drama, conflict, or emotional extremes. It becomes addicted to adrenaline, crisis, or chaos. This craving for intensity often masks an inner emptiness, but presence offers a different kind of intensity, a still, vibrant aliveness that needs no chaos to feel full. It's not loud, but it's deep, not flashy, but true. And once you taste it, the drama of the mind begins to lose its appeal. Boredom is another doorway the mind avoids. People fear boredom. They seek escape through phones, noise, activity. But boredom is not the enemy. It's the gateway to stillness. If you sit with boredom long enough, without distraction, it transforms. It reveals the subtle layers of presence that are always here, hidden behind the mental fog. What you feared as emptiness becomes fullness. What you avoided becomes peace. Eventually, as you practice presence, you begin to catch the mind's games earlier. You notice when it pulls you into stories, judgments, projections. You stop mid-thought and say, "This is just the mind again." Not with anger, but with clarity. And in that moment, you return. You return to your body, to your breath, to the simple miracle of now. Each return strengthens the connection. Each return dissolves another layer of illusion. Living in the now is not a passive life. It's the most vibrant life you can live. It's not about doing nothing or becoming detached. It's about doing everything from presence, speaking from awareness, acting from stillness, loving from depth. You don't retreat from life. You enter it fully with eyes open and heart soft. Over time, presence becomes your default. The strategies of the mind lose their grip, not because you fought them, but because you no longer believed in them. You see through the illusion. You recognize that nothing needs to be added to this moment to make it whole. It already is. Presence doesn't eliminate all pain, but it transforms your relationship to pain. You stop resisting, you allow, you feel. And in that space, pain softens. It passes through, it teaches, it heals. The same goes for joy. You don't cling to it. You let it bloom, then let it fade. Because you're no longer chasing, you're no longer fleeing. You're just here. And here, everything is enough. So begin to watch, begin to feel, begin to return. Every breath is an opportunity. Every sensation is a portal. Every moment is a chance to step out of the mind's maze and into the wide, open sky of presence. This is not a future goal. This is a now reality. The only thing standing between you and freedom is belief in thought. Let go. Drop in and discover what has always been waiting. The radiant silence beneath the noise, the stillness beneath the striving, the now beneath all time. And in that now, you are finally home. Chapter 5, the state of presence. Presence is not a mystical idea or a temporary feeling. It is the ground of your being. It is who you are when you strip away every mental image, identity, and narrative you've ever clung to. It's the silent awareness beneath the noise, the stillness behind the movement, the clarity behind the confusion. It doesn't shout. It doesn't prove itself. It simply is. The state of presence is not something you achieve. It's something you remember. You return to it when the distractions fall away. You don't become it. You realize you are it. The mind does not like presence. The ego, the conditioned self, the voice that constantly compares, plans, fears, and analyzes, it thrives in a state of unconsciousness. It needs time. It needs past and future. It feeds off resistance, off storylines, off identification. So when you step into presence, something strange happens. You feel peace, yes, but also at first a kind of unease. The mind begins to panic. This is boring, it says. This is unsafe. What about tomorrow? What about your problems? You can't just be. That voice is not you. It's the echo of every conditioned belief you've inherited. And in presence, it begins to unravel. The state of presence isn't created, it's uncovered. And it begins the moment you become aware of your awareness, the moment you notice that you're breathing, the moment you stop, truly stop, can't, and feel the aliveness in your hands, your chest, your breath. The moment you hear the sounds around you not as noise, but as a symphony of now. That is presence. You don't have to say, I am present. You don't need to claim it. You know it because suddenly you feel alive. But don't confuse presence with passivity. Presence is not withdrawal from life. It's total engagement with it. It's tasting food without thinking of your next task. It's listening to someone without planning your reply. It's walking without reaching for your phone. It's doing what you're doing fully without split attention. In that total engagement, you connect with the depth of the moment, and the moment becomes luminous. Presence also strips away identity. You realize you are not your story. You are not your roles, not your name, not your past. These things may shape your experience, but they are not the essence of who you are. They are clothes the mind wears. Presence removes them, layer by layer, until what remains is not a someone, but a suchness, a beingness that defies description. You can't explain it. You can only rest in it. This scares the ego. The ego wants definition. It wants a role, a conflict, a problem to solve. It says, who are you if you're not your job, your trauma, your achievements? But the moment you become present, the ego fades. Not because you fought it, but because its fuel, mental noise, has been cut off. And in that silence, you realize the ego was never you. It was just a structure built from fear and time. Living in presence changes everything. Your emotions shift, your reactions soften, you begin to respond to life instead of reacting to it. You feel what's needed rather than forcing outcomes. You stop trying to control every detail and start allowing life to move through you. This doesn't mean you lose your will. It means your will aligns with the flow of being. In presence, relationships also transform. You no longer relate to people through your mind's filters. You meet them directly as they are, not as who you want them to be. You stop projecting your wounds onto them. You stop needing them to complete you. You start listening, not to their words only, but to their energy, to their presence. And when two people meet in presence, something extraordinary happens. The space between them becomes alive. It holds love, not the needy love of the ego, but the expansive, generous love of being. Even your problems start to lose their grip. Presence doesn't mean problems vanish, but they stop defining you. You can have a financial issue, a health challenge, a difficult situation, but you don't become it. You handle what needs to be handled, but from a place of calm. You bring clarity instead of panic. You act without the added suffering of mental resistance. And this subtle shift makes all the difference. A mind in resistance creates chaos. A mind aligned with presence brings order. Now, presence doesn't always feel blissful. Sometimes when you drop into now, what you find are painful emotions: grief, shame, fear. The impulse might be to run back into distraction, but this is your chance to heal. Presence allows what is buried to surface, not so it can consume you, but so it can be seen, felt, released. When you remain present with your pain, not your story about the pain, but the raw sensation of it, you transform it. The pain loses its charge, it passes through like a wave, and you emerge clearer, freer, lighter. The body becomes your ally in presence. The body is always in the now. It doesn't live in memory or anticipation. It breathes, pulses, senses. When the mind races, return to the body. Feel your feet on the floor. Feel your breath moving in and out. Scan your body from within. You'll begin to feel a quiet energy field, a gentle vibration. That's the life force. That's you. Not your ideas about yourself, not your self-image, but the living, breathing presence that animates you. There's a moment sometimes during meditation, sometimes during a walk, sometimes doing nothing at all when you suddenly become aware of awareness itself. not of thoughts or things, but of the space in which thoughts and things appear. This space is not blank, it is full, vibrant, alive. It holds everything, yet is untouched by anything. This is the state of presence, and the more you rest in it, the more natural it becomes. Eventually, you don't need to remind yourself to be present. You don't need techniques or mantras. You simply are. The veil of mind loses its power. You stop reaching. You stop waiting. You stop chasing some imagined future where you'll finally be enough, because you already are. Not because of what you've done, but because of what you are. Presence is not a reward. It's your birthright. And presence is the only thing that's truly real. Everything else changes. Thoughts shift. Emotions fluctuate. Bodies age. Circumstances rise and fall. But presence remains. It's the unchanging backdrop to every experience. It's the silence behind every sound, the stillness beneath every motion. And it's always available. No matter your past, no matter your situation, you can access it now. You don't need to believe in presence. You only need to stop believing in the mind's noise long enough to feel it. And once you feel it, once you've touched that deep stillness, you know, nothing the mind can offer compares. No fantasy of success, no memory of failure, no story of suffering can hold a candle to the luminous peace of presence. So how do you stay present? You don't try to hold on to it. You simply return. Every time you notice you've drifted into thought, come back, not with judgment, not with effort. Just return. The more you return, the more you stabilize. Presence becomes your center, your home base. And from that center, you can live, love, speak, and act with clarity and power. Presence isn't reserved for monks or mystics. It's not limited to meditation cushions or mountaintops. It belongs in your ordinary life, in conversations, in traffic, in work, in rest. It belongs in your joy and in your sorrow, in your strength and in your vulnerability. Because it is not something you do, it is something you are. And the more you live from that place, the more life begins to respond. Not always in the ways you expect, but in the ways you need. You attract situations that match your energy. You draw people who resonate with your stillness. You begin to walk through the world like a calm in the storm, untouched yet fully alive. This is not about escaping life. It's about entering it more deeply, about removing the filters and seeing clearly, about shedding the armor and standing open. It's about knowing, not with the mind, but with your being, that this moment is complete, that nothing is missing, that you don't have to become anything. You are already here, fully, completely, unapologetically. This is the state of presence, and once you've tasted it, you'll never again believe the lie that peace is somewhere else. You'll know peace has always been here, waiting for you to stop, to listen, to return, to remember who you truly are. Chapter 6, The Inner Body. The body is the gateway, the direct doorway into the present moment. Most people live disconnected from their own bodies, lost in a constant stream of thought, always somewhere else, either in memories of the past or projections into the future. The mind consumes their attention, running its endless narratives, leaving the body as nothing more than a background prop to be managed or controlled. But this disconnection is the root of much suffering, tension, and unrest. The body holds the key to presence, to the here and now, and learning to reconnect with it is one of the most powerful and essential steps toward freedom. You see, the mind exists in time. It thrives on the past and the future. It thinks, calculates, anticipates, and regrets. But the body cannot be trapped in time. The sensations, the energy, the very life force coursing through your physical form, all of this exists only in the now. When you bring your attention away from the ceaseless mental noise and focus it inward, you begin to feel the living presence within, the breath moving in and out, the weight of your body pressing against the chair or floor, the subtle energy pulsing beneath the skin. This is the reality beyond thought. Most people barely notice these sensations. They live above the body, stuck in their heads, and the body becomes a machine to be fixed or ignored until it breaks. This alienation causes tension, anxiety, and a dull feeling of emptiness or incompleteness. When you shift your awareness to the inner body, everything changes. The mind slows, time slows. The moment becomes full and alive. The simplest way to connect is to become aware of your breathing, not just as a mechanical function, but as a living energy moving through you. Feel the air as it enters your nostrils. Sense the coolness. Notice how the belly expands, the chest rises, the breath reaches into every cell. Then feel the exhale, the warmth, the release. Don't try to control it, just observe. This simple act anchors you deeply into presence. Once you can feel your breath, you can begin a more detailed practice of body awareness. Slowly scan your body from toes to head. Notice each part with curiosity. What sensations arise? Is there warmth or coolness, tingling or numbness, tension or ease? Don't judge, don't try to fix anything. Just observe. This non-judgmental presence reveals the layers of tension and resistance that most people carry unknowingly. You may find knots of tightness or uncomfortable sensations. Instead of pushing them away, you gently allow them to be. This practice opens the door to healing. Many of our emotional wounds, fears, and unresolved traumas are held in the body. The mind often tries to suppress or avoid feelings, but the body remembers. It stores pain in muscles, joints, and energy fields. When you bring conscious awareness and acceptance to these areas, you allow trapped emotions to surface and release. The process can be subtle or intense, but it is always transformative. The more you stay present with these sensations, the more you dissolve old blocks and restore flow. Resistance will arise. The mind will protest. This is scary, it says. I don't want to feel that. But presence in the body is gentle. It doesn't force or rush. You learn to rest in your awareness, breathing into whatever arises. With patience, the fear loosens its grip and the energy softens. You begin to know a peace deeper than thought. Reconnecting with the inner body also changes your entire experience of life. You become more grounded, more centered. The mental storms calm. You become less reactive to outer events and more responsive from a calm core. This grounded presence radiates outward. Your relationships improve because you are not projecting inner turmoil onto others. You listen more deeply, communicate more clearly, and bring compassion rather than judgment. Presence in the body is the foundation for spiritual awakening. It bypasses the mind's endless chatter and touches the essence of being. Across cultures and traditions, sages have pointed to body awareness as a primary path to enlightenment. The body is not separate from spirit. It is the vehicle through which spirit experiences itself. When you rest in the aliveness of your body, you touch the source of all life. Our modern world pulls us away from this wisdom. We are encouraged to live in our heads, to multitask, to be productive, to consume constant streams of information. The result is collective disconnection and inner fragmentation. Reconnecting with the inner body is a radical act of reclaiming your wholeness. It grounds you in truth when the mind wants to trap you in illusion. To cultivate this connection, you don't need special conditions. You don't need to retreat to a cave or spend hours in meditation. You can start with simple moments throughout your day. Feel your feet on the ground as you walk. Sense your hands as you touch something. Breathe consciously between tasks. These small acts bring you back to your essential nature. With consistent practice, presence in the body becomes a refuge. The mind's stories and worries fade to the background. You become the silent observer, the spacious awareness in which all experiences arise and pass away. This shift is freedom itself. You no longer identify with every thought, feeling, or sensation. Instead, you see them as temporary waves on the ocean of your being. Presence also opens the door to a deeper joy. Not the fleeting pleasure tied to external circumstances, but a radiant, unshakable happiness that flows from being fully alive. This joy arises from the simple fact that you are fully and completely beyond labels or achievements. It is the natural state of presence. The journey to presence is not linear. There will be distractions, setbacks, moments of forgetfulness. But each time you return to your body, to your breath, to the now, you deepen your connection. This connection becomes a sanctuary in the chaos of life, a place where you can always come home. Ultimately, the inner body teaches the greatest truth. You are not your mind. You are the awareness behind the mind. You are the spacious presence in which all phenomena appear. And this presence is eternal, unchanging, and free. This realization is the doorway to true peace and happiness. It is the heart of the power of now. It is here, always, waiting for you to turn inward, to breathe, and to feel. Presence is not a distant goal or a mystical concept. It is your natural state, and it is available to you in this very moment. Chapter 7: Portals into the Unmanifested. There exists a realm beneath the surface of all things, an unmanifested dimension where form and time dissolve into pure being. This is the space beyond the physical world and mental concepts, a silent vastness from which everything arises and to which everything returns. It is invisible yet palpably real, intangible yet the foundation of all existence. To access this unmanifested is to touch the source of presence itself, the eternal now that underlies every moment. Most people live their lives caught up in the manifest world, the world of shapes, names, and forms. They identify with their bodies, their thoughts, their emotions, and their roles. They live as if these outer layers are all there is. But the unmanifested is always there beneath these surfaces, like a deep ocean beneath the waves. It is the ground of being, timeless and formless, yet pregnant with infinite potential. The challenge is that the mind cannot directly grasp the unmanifested. The mind is designed to categorize, analyze, and divide. It works through duality, subject and object, self and other. The unmanifested, by contrast, is non-dual. It transcends opposites. It cannot be known as a concept, but only experienced as presence. The mind tries to capture it, but it slips away like a shadow. This is why spiritual seekers often feel frustrated or confused. They think enlightenment is an idea to be understood, when in fact, it is a direct experience beyond ideas. There are portals, practical gateways, that can lead you into the unmanifested. These are not complicated techniques, but simple shifts in awareness that allow you to glimpse the source beyond form. One of the most accessible portals is silence. When you consciously withdraw attention from the noise of the mind, the endless inner commentary, the judgments, the planning, and rest in silence, you enter the unmanifested. Silence is not the absence of sound, but the presence of stillness. In silence, the mind's grip loosens and the vast formlessness reveals itself. Another powerful portal is space. When you become aware of the space around and within you, not just the objects occupying space, but space itself, you move beyond form. Space is the canvas on which all things appear. When you feel space, you realize you are not confined by your body or your thoughts. You are the spaciousness in which all experience arises. This spacious awareness is unmanifested. Breath is also a portal. The moment you stop trying to control the breath and flow with, and simply feel it, you connect to something deeper than thought. The breath is a rhythm of life flowing through you, a bridge between the visible and invisible. Its subtle movement connects you to the vastness beyond form. When your attention rests fully on the breath, the boundaries between self and other begin to dissolve. Stillness, too, opens the door. When the body and mind stop resisting, when movement ceases, a quiet presence remains. This stillness is not stagnation, but vibrant aliveness. It is the unmanifested pulsing beneath the surface of all change. Entering stillness requires surrender, a letting go of control and effort. It is in this surrender that the source is revealed. These portals are not destinations to be reached, but moments to be recognized. You don't need to travel anywhere or acquire special knowledge. The unmanifested is always here, behind the curtain of form. Your task is to let go of the distractions and see it directly. The ego resists these portals because entering the unmanifested threatens its existence. The ego is based on identity, separation, and time. It needs form to define itself. The unmanifested dissolves identity and reveals the illusion of separation. This can be terrifying to the conditioned mind, but the fear arises from attachment, not truth. When you pass through these portals, you experience a profound shift. Time dissolves. Past and future lose meaning. Only the eternal now remains. In this timeless presence, there is no doer, no thinker, no object, only being. This is the essence of enlightenment. This experience is not separate from daily life. It is the foundation beneath every moment, whether you are washing dishes, walking, or sitting in meditation. The difference is your awareness. When your attention rests in the unmanifested, life appears fresh and new. You see the miraculous nature of existence in even the smallest details. Living connected to the unmanifested transforms suffering. Pain and difficulties remain but lose their power to disturb you deeply. You recognize that form is transient and that your true nature is untouched by change. This recognition brings peace that is unshakable. The unmanifested is also the source of creativity and intuition. When the mind relaxes into this space, new ideas and insights flow effortlessly. You tap into a universal intelligence beyond the personal self. This flow is natural and spontaneous, free from effort or strain. The path to the unmanifested requires practice and patience. The mind is habituated to distraction and identification, but with consistent awareness, the portals open wider. Moments of presence lengthen and deepen. The formless presence becomes your home. In this home, you are free. Free from fear, from compulsive thinking, from the need to prove yourself. You rest in the eternal now, fully alive and awake. The unmanifested is not something to be attained in the future. It is the ground beneath your feet at this very moment. The challenge is to recognize it beyond the mind's veil. Each breath, each pause, each moment of silence is an invitation to step through the portal. Each time you accept the invitation, you touch the essence of who you truly are. Timeless, boundless presence. And when you live from that place, life becomes a celebration of the mystery and wonder of existence itself. Chapter 8, Enlightened Relationships. Relationships are the deepest mirrors we have, reflecting back to us not only who we appear to be, but who we truly are beneath the surface. In the weaving of connection between two human beings lies both the potential for profound suffering and for ultimate awakening. Most people approach relationships burdened with unconscious conditioning, expectations shaped by childhood wounds, social conditioning, and unhealed emotional pain. These unspoken contracts between partners often become a battlefield of misunderstanding, need, and emotional reactivity. But beneath the surface of every relationship lies the possibility of presence, the pure awareness that can dissolve egoic patterns and transform connection into a gateway for spiritual growth. The usual way relationships unfold is through the meeting of two unconscious minds. Each person carries their own set of fears, desires, and unresolved wounds. They come into union hoping to be completed, to be saved, or simply to avoid loneliness. But the egoic mind always wants more. It wants control, certainty, and validation. When these needs go unmet, conflict arises. Words are used as weapons, accusations fly, and defenses tighten. This creates a painful cycle where both partners react from old pain, making connection feel like struggle. What many don't realize is that these conflicts aren't caused by the other person's behavior alone. They arise from the unhealed, unconscious parts within each person. The ego reacts defensively whenever it feels threatened or diminished. It clings tightly to its identity, refusing to surrender. The pain of separation and the fear of abandonment fuel these reactions. Without awareness, relationships become an endless roller coaster of pain and misunderstanding. But everything changes when presence enters the dynamic. Presence means being fully awake in the moment, fully aware not just of the other person, but of your own inner state. It is the ability to observe thoughts and emotions without becoming entangled in them. When you bring this conscious awareness into your interactions, you stop using the other as a means to fill your own emptiness or as a target for your unresolved pain. Instead, you begin to see the other as they truly are, a fellow being with their own journey, their own suffering, and their own light. Presence creates space between stimulus and response. It interrupts the automatic reactivity driven by the egoic mind. In this space, you can choose how to respond rather than reacting out of old conditioning. This is the foundation for healing and transformation in relationships. True connection happens when two people meet not as roles or identities, but as beings present with each other. This meeting transcends the masks of husband, wife, parent, or friend. It is a meeting of pure presence, an encounter of two hearts recognizing each other beyond words, beyond judgment. In this space, defenses dissolve and a deep compassion arises naturally. Even when difficulties arise, they are handled with calmness and understanding instead of fear and anger. Presence also means taking responsibility for your own inner state. Instead of blaming your partner for your unhappiness, you recognize that your peace comes from within. This does not mean you avoid difficult conversations or pretend that problems don't exist. Rather, it means you approach challenges from a centered place of awareness. You listen deeply, communicate honestly, and create space for growth. Deep listening is a cornerstone of enlightened relationships. To listen fully without interruption, judgment, or mental commentary is a radical act of presence. It allows the other person to be truly heard and seen. When you listen in this way, you connect not only with the words spoken, but with the feelings and essence beneath them. This kind of listening fosters intimacy, trust, and healing. Speaking with presence is equally important. It means expressing your truth calmly and clearly, without blame or accusation. It means sharing your feelings and needs honestly while honoring the other's experience. Presence dissolves the ego's need to be right or to control. It opens the door to authentic dialogue, mutual understanding, and collaboration. Relationships grounded in presence challenge the ego's desire for control and certainty. Life is impermanent. People change and grow. Presence invites acceptance of this natural flow. It asks you to embrace uncertainty without clinging or fear. Each moment with your partner is unique and precious. Presence allows you to appreciate this unfolding with gratitude and openness. Love expressed through presence is unconditional. It is not dependent on external factors or outcomes. It is free from attachment, neediness, and possessiveness. This love respects freedom and individuality. It heals wounds and breaks patterns of separation by connecting you to the deeper reality beyond form. Presence in relationships often requires courage. It means facing uncomfortable emotions without shutting down or lashing out. It means allowing vulnerability when the ego demands armor. But vulnerability is strength. It opens the door to real intimacy and trust. Awakened relationships require you to observe your own triggers, the moments when old wounds are touched and the ego reacts. Instead of reacting unconsciously, presence offers the space to choose a conscious response. You stop fueling conflict and instead bring awareness and compassion. These relationships are not perfect. They involve challenges and growth, but presence transforms conflict into opportunity for awakening. Each difficulty becomes a chance to see unconscious patterns and free yourself from them. Presence extends beyond romantic partnerships. It transforms relationships with family, friends, coworkers, and even strangers. Wherever two or more people meet, presence can bring healing and peace. Ultimately, enlightened relationships reveal the profound truth that the other is not separate from you. They reflect your own consciousness. When you recognize this, compassion deepens. You no longer judge or oppose, but embrace the shared journey of awakening. The power of now in relationships is living fully in each encounter without projection or expectation, with openness and love. It is meeting others as they are and inviting them to meet you as you are. This mutual presence creates a sacred space where true connection flourishes. Living in presence with others is a lifelong practice. It requires mindfulness, patience, and a willingness to face your shadows. But the rewards are immeasurable: freedom from suffering, deeper intimacy, and the joy of shared awakening. In presence, relationships become a dance of love, not a battlefield of ego. They become sacred spaces where two beings touch the infinite. And in that touching, the power of now reveals its greatest gift: unity beyond separation, peace beyond conflict, and love beyond conditions. Chapter 9: Beyond Happiness and Unhappiness. There is peace. Human experience swings like a pendulum between happiness and unhappiness. For many, life is a constant chase after happiness, a relentless pursuit of moments, achievements, and possessions believed to bring lasting joy. But these peaks of happiness are always followed by valleys of dissatisfaction or pain. This repetitive cycle traps people in a roller coaster of emotions, never quite arriving at the lasting contentment they seek. Behind this cycle lies a deeper truth, often overlooked. Beyond happiness and unhappiness, there is a profound peace, an unshakable stillness that remains untouched by external circumstances. Most people believe happiness is something external, dependent on conditions in the world. When things go well, when you get a raise, find love, or achieve a goal, you feel happy. When those things are lost or denied, unhappiness arises. This conditional happiness is unstable by nature, like a sandcastle built at the edge of the tide. The moment conditions change, the castle washes away. The mind clings desperately to these fleeting moments of pleasure and comfort, and when they vanish, suffering follows. But true peace is not dependent on anything external. It is the silent, unchanging presence beneath the fluctuations of emotion and circumstance. Imagine your emotions as waves on the surface of a vast ocean. The waves rise and fall, sometimes turbulent, sometimes calm, but the ocean itself, the deep water beneath the surface, remains steady and still. This is what peace is: the oceanic stillness underlying the transient waves of happiness and unhappiness. The challenge is that most people identify completely with their feelings and circumstances. They say, "I am happy," or "I am sad," as if their emotions define their entire being. But this identification is an illusion created by the mind. Your true self is not the passing feelings, thoughts, or roles you play. You are the awareness in which these experiences arise and pass away. Recognizing this distinction is the key to freedom from emotional suffering. When you see that emotions are temporary visitors in your consciousness, you no longer fear unhappiness or grasp for happiness. Instead, you allow feelings to come and go without resistance. This is not suppression or denial. It is a deep acceptance that whatever arises is simply part of the flow of life. Resistance to pain is the main cause of suffering. When pain, loss, or discomfort appear, the natural reaction is to push them away or to avoid them. This resistance creates tension and intensifies the experience. It is like holding your hand under cold water and then squeezing it tight to try to make the cold go away. The tighter you squeeze, the more it hurts. Presence teaches a different approach: to meet pain with acceptance, to breathe into discomfort rather than retreat from it. This conscious allowance dissolves resistance and softens suffering. Pain remains, but it no longer controls you. You become the witness, like the silent presence that watches the waves without being swept away. This acceptance opens a gateway to peace. Peace is not the absence of problems or challenges, but the inner space in which challenges can be faced without losing your center. It is the calm eye in the storm, the unmoving core beneath the waves of emotion. This peace is accessible at any moment, no matter what is happening externally. Many people confuse peace with numbness or emotional detachment. They fear that letting go means becoming cold or indifferent. But true peace is vibrant and alive. It is a full engagement with life without the turbulence of mental reactivity. In this state, you feel deeply, yet remain unshaken. Detachment in the spiritual sense does not mean disengagement. It means freedom from identification with transient states. You still care, you still love, but you do not depend on external factors for your happiness. This detachment is the root of true freedom. Another barrier to peace is the identification with external roles, job titles, relationships, possessions. These can provide comfort and a sense of identity, but are ultimately fragile and impermanent. When you define yourself by what you do or have, you build your happiness on shifting sands. True peace arises when you step beyond these roles and recognize your essence as the timeless awareness within. The mind often resists this shift because it fears loss of control and identity. The ego clings to stories and labels to maintain its sense of self. But presence allows you to see through these stories. It reveals the gap between who you think you are and who you truly are. Cultivating this peace requires practice. It begins with simple acts of awareness, pausing to feel the breath, observing thoughts without judgment, grounding yourself in the body. These moments of presence create cracks in the habitual identification with thought and emotion. Over time, these cracks widen until presence becomes your natural state. The mental noise quiets, and peace becomes a living reality. You no longer seek happiness outside because you have found the happiness of being itself. In times of crisis or loss, this peace becomes a sanctuary. It does not erase pain, but allows you to face it with clarity and strength. You become a still point in the turning world, a source of calm for yourself and others. Beyond happiness and unhappiness, peace is the true essence of your being. It is the power of now, the direct experience of presence that remains when all else fades. This peace is not a reward to be earned, but your natural state to be realized. Living from this peace transforms how you engage with the world. You act with clarity, compassion, and wisdom. You are no longer driven by fear or desire, but by the calm knowing of who you are. This peace is always available, waiting for you in the present moment. The only barrier is your identification with thought and emotion. When you let go of that identification, you step into freedom. In the silence beyond happiness and unhappiness, peace shines like a light, guiding you home, to yourself and to life as it truly is. Chapter 10, The Meaning of Surrender. Surrender is a word that carries a heavy weight of misunderstanding and misinterpretation. When you hear it, your mind might immediately jump to images of weakness, defeat, or giving up. In a culture that prizes control, power, and constant striving, surrender can feel like the very opposite of strength. But surrender, in its truest and deepest sense, is the greatest strength a human being can cultivate. It is not about resignation or passivity. It is not about giving up on life or abandoning your goals. Instead, surrender is the conscious act of letting go. The letting go of resistance, the ego's grip on control, and the incessant mental struggle against what is. It is an active and powerful choice to say yes to the present moment, exactly as it is, with all its imperfections, pain, and uncertainty. To understand surrender, it's important to recognize how the mind works against it. The human mind is built for control and survival. It wants to predict, plan, manipulate, and manage every aspect of your life. It fears the unknown and the unpredictable, and it clings tightly to identity and security. This fear drives the mind to resist anything uncomfortable or unfamiliar. When faced with pain, loss, or uncertainty, the mind tries to push these away or to distract itself. It resists change, denial, and fights to maintain the status quo. This mental resistance creates tension, frustration, and suffering. The more you push against reality, the more exhausted and trapped you become. This is like trying to hold back a river with your hands. No matter how strong you are, the water flows anyway. Surrender invites you to stop fighting and to flow with life instead. It asks you to shift from resistance to acceptance, not to say yes because you approve of everything that happens, but because you acknowledge reality without adding the layers of mental judgment, complaint, or struggle. This is a radical act. It requires a letting go of the story your mind tells you about how things should be and an opening to how things actually are. This kind of surrender is an act of tremendous courage. It means looking directly into pain, fear, and uncertainty without flinching. It means dropping your defenses and opening to the rawness of life. This openness does not mean giving up your power or stopping action. On the contrary, when you surrender, your actions become wiser and more aligned with reality. Instead of reacting out of fear or resistance, you respond with clarity, calmness, and effectiveness. You move like a skilled sailor navigating the currents rather than a boulder stuck resisting the flow. The power of surrender lies in its ability to free you from the exhausting battle between what you want and what life presents. It frees your energy, allowing it to flow naturally rather than being trapped in tension and struggle. This shift brings a profound peace that is not dependent on external conditions. This peace is the essence of your true nature, the silent presence beneath the waves of thought and emotion. Surrender is not a single moment or event. It is an ongoing practice, a choice made again and again throughout each day. Every time you notice yourself resisting, whether it's a difficult emotion, a challenging situation, or a disappointment, you have the opportunity to surrender. This continual willingness to release resistance and come back to presence deepens your connection to the power of now. A crucial part of surrender is learning to face difficult emotions fully. Most people have been conditioned to avoid pain, grief, anger, or fear. We push these feelings away, distract ourselves, or judge ourselves for having them. But surrender means inviting these emotions in and allowing them space. It means watching them as temporary guests passing through the vastness of your awareness. This does not mean indulging or wallowing in negativity, but observing feelings without getting caught up or identifying with them. Resistance to emotions is what magnifies suffering. The tighter you hold on or push away, the more intense pain becomes. When you soften and surrender to your feelings, they lose their grip on you. You create spaciousness around them and allow healing to begin. This spacious awareness is the heart of surrender. Surrender also dissolves fear, the most powerful emotion blocking peace. Fear arises from the illusion of control and the desire for certainty. When you surrender, you accept that life is inherently uncertain and unpredictable. You place your trust not in the mind's control, but in the flow of life itself. This trust does not mean blind optimism or passivity. It means a clear-eyed acceptance of what is, accompanied by a deep inner peace that transcends circumstance. In relationships, surrender takes on a vital role. It means releasing the need to control or change others and instead accepting people as they are, with all their flaws and gifts. This acceptance creates the foundation for true intimacy and love. It allows connection to deepen beyond roles, expectations, or conditions. Love becomes unconditional. This kind of surrender in relationships requires vulnerability and courage. It means facing fears of loss or rejection and choosing presence and compassion over reaction. It means communicating honestly while giving space for the other's freedom and authenticity. Spiritually, surrender marks the moment when the ego's control loosens and the true self emerges. Awakening is not something you achieve or grasp. It is a recognition. You are not the thinker, the doer, or the sufferer, but the spacious awareness in which all experiences arise and dissolve. The paradox of surrender is remarkable. By letting go of control, you gain freedom. By relinquishing resistance, you find peace. By embracing reality, you open to joy beyond conditions. Surrender is not a loss, it is the greatest gain. To cultivate surrender requires patience, mindfulness, and self-compassion. You learn to observe your inner resistance without judgment and gently return to acceptance. Over time, surrender becomes your natural response to life's challenges, transforming your relationship with yourself and the world. Presence is the soil in which surrender grows. When fully present, you see life clearly, free from fear and desire. Presence reveals the interconnected flow of all things and dissolves the illusion of separation and control. Surrender reconnects you with your body, the living temple of your being. It is here in the softening of muscles and the deepening of breath that surrender is most tangibly felt. When you surrender, you become grounded and embodied rather than trapped in mental chaos. The benefits of surrender ripple outward beyond the individual. As more people surrender to life's flow, society moves from conflict and control toward harmony and compassion. Surrender nurtures peace within and around you. Ultimately, surrender unveils the eternal truth. You are not your thoughts, emotions, or roles. You are the infinite awareness in which all phenomena arise and fade. This awareness is unchanging and free. To surrender is to come home, to rest fully in the power of now, alive, awake, and free.